Because if you're talking about people or witnesses or things that people might want to know about, there are different names that we could throw out there that would give people at least an entry into the story if they aren't familiar with it yet. Perhaps even for the normiest of the normies, just directing people to Carol Howe, who was an ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms informant. We know her confidential informant number, CI 183. We know her testimony. We know what she talked about. We have all the documents that she was involved in the Elohim City white supremacist compound circles, and she was involved in a casing of the Oklahoma City Federal Building in December 1994 with Andreas Strassmeyer and Dennis Mahon. Andreas Strassmeyer, who's that? It's this German guy who was head of security for Elohim City, who mysteriously left the country in 96 before he was questioned about anything, and oh, by the way, turns out to absolutely have been working with federal authorities in some manner. I'm not sure, maybe Chris has more details on exactly what his connection was and who he was working for. I know he was working for German intelligence, but to what extent he was directly working for the CIA, I'm not sure if that's documented. But anyway, so Carol Howe is a great one of those windows into the story. That just opens up a whole bunch of other can of worms. Terrence Yakey, his name's come up. Kiro, cop of the year, ran into the building, one of the first people on the scene, responding, bravely pulling people out of the building and helping. And he said, he indicated that he had information, that things were not what they seemed in there, and he had seen things that were against the official story, and ends up going into saying that he had information. He was going on his way to help deliver this information, and guess what? He ends up dragging himself across the field and shooting himself in the back of the head a couple times, and just magically committing suicide. But perhaps one of the most interesting windows into all of this, for someone who's new to this, is the Kenneth Trendadu story. So basically, Kenneth Trendadu, he had attempted bank robbery with a fake gun and things like this, so he served 6 years of a 20-year sentence. He was paroled in 1988. In 95, June of 95, he was picked up crossing the border from Mexico into California, and when he was picked up, they found that he was violating his parole. So they took him in, and he was transferred to the Oklahoma City Federal Transfer Center, which was odd because it had nothing to do with his case. It wasn't the jurisdiction of where his case was or anything like that. And then on, I believe it was August 21st, he ends up...
Yes, it was almost 4 months to the day after the bombing. You're
exactly right, yes. Yeah. August 21st, 1995, he ends up killing himself in his cell. And this is the way it was presented to the family, until the family received photographs of the body, which clearly showed he had been brutally beaten before whatever happened to him. He was hung or whatever. This aroused the attention of his brother, Jesse Trendadu, who was is a lawyer, and through years and years and years of digging up documents and taking the federal government to court, the FBI to court, he has dug up so many different threads in this story, including, of course, one of his fights has been to get the actual video surveillance tape of the Murrah building, which we know exists, and which multiple sources have absolutely attested to shows not just Timothy McVeigh, but a second person driving up in the Ryder cab, and the second person setting the fuse. This was all apparently multiply attested to. There's no doubt that that tape exists, but the FBI can't find it. They say it doesn't exist. He took them to court for years trying to get that tape out of them. He did get, interestingly, tapes of the Ryder approaching, the Ryder truck approaching, on many of the different surveillance camera footage that did exist. And on several of them, numerous ones, just as the Ryder truck was passing, the tape was being changed, or the tape goes blank, or the tape is missing. Just a remarkable coincidence. For some reason, all of these surveillance cameras failing at the same time. But the Trendadu story goes on and on. There's so many different aspects of this. And the reason that Kenneth Trendadu apparently was involved in this in the first place is because they mistook him for John Doe number 2. He had various superficial details like the dragon tattoo on his arm and other things that led them to believe that he was this John Doe number 2, so they took him in. He clearly got killed during some sort of interrogation, and this is how his brother has ended up becoming, I think his brother is based in Salt Lake City, but he's ended up becoming one of the biggest antagonists of the federal government on this case.